brought to you by Melon, the #1 streaming platform on the planet. I actually use Melon to shoot my videos, but what it's really for, it's a powerful live streaming platform that allows you to go live simultaneously on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, or your own custom servers. Super easy to use. You can go live in just 5 clicks, and it's got these great themes and overlays to make your stream look incredible. So go check them out. Click on the link in the description below to try them for free. Thanks, Melon. Welcome to Tom Show, where we interview the biggest creators in the world. Today we've got Kai Watson from the Sync YouTube channels. He's got 3 channels. He's got the Sync, where he talks about influencer stuff. That has 400,000 subscribers. He's got the Sync podcast, where he interviews big influencers. That's got 140,000 subscribers. And the Sync Uncut channel, which is really just about you guys, and that's got 43,000 subscribers. I've asked this question to you 3 times because we had technical difficulties, so you're probably ready for the answer by now, but how have you built this in only a year?
Yeah, so when I started listening to podcasts, I was like in the 3rd grade, always been really in love with podcasts. I love the format. I don't know how far to take this. So it started all the way back when I started listening to podcasts. Love the format, grew up in the entire internet space of Team 10, Jake Paul, everything that was going on during that time, the rise of David Dobrik. That's who I consumed every single day. I was always watching like the drama alerts, all these Philip DeFranco, all these different internet-based news sources, whether they're covering Gen Z news, social media news, or if they're just covering mainstream things happening every day. So kept listening to podcasts. In high school, I made a vlog channel, YouTube channel. I was filming pranks all the time. I used to run up to all my friends in school and like film them with my camera, ask them questions and stuff like that. Yeah. So it was always like it was like, I was ripping off everyone's style, right? I was trying to do like the David Dobrik style, running up to people. I was trying to do Jake Paul, going crazy, because that's what was popping at the time. In retrospect, it was an awesome experience, because although no one was watching it, like I swear I would maximum I would get like 1,000 views, right? But I had one prank that got 1 million views. It was like a K-pop prank in public. That was my first video on YouTube that did well. After that,
were you in high school at the time?
Yeah, I was 15, I think 15.
Wow.
Yeah,
it's a big deal.
So yeah, it was a big deal. It happened over like 6 months, and I was freaking out. But what I wasn't prepared for, which now a lot of influencers are really good at capitalizing on, like that one hit and finding out how to like stretch it out and make it bigger. Bella Porsche built a career on it, right? All these different creators. I couldn't do it. I didn't know how to do it. I was still super young. I was still editing videos. I jumped to like making vlogs. And I kept doing this, kept uploading as much as I could, 2, 3 times a week with no one watching it, kept doing it. And eventually I stopped. And then I started making content for political stuff, creating content for like followers of certain candidates during the Democratic primaries in 2016. And during that time, I had like a broader vision of, okay, like taking podcasting content about politics and creating a network about it, creating shows with different personalities and different spectrums of the political world, and getting them to give their thoughts. I realized like the audience wasn't quite there. And that was towards the end of, I would say, like 2019. And so when that happened, and then COVID hit, right when we went into lockdown, a friend of mine, we wanted to do something, the same thing we were doing in building a network, building more shows, building IP, like what makes Barstool successful, what makes BuzzFeed so successful.
Well,
so we created
before we go into the channels, which you're about to, time out for a sec. So you're doing political stuff. You work with Andrew Chen, right? And other.
Yeah, Andrew Yang. He was, I wasn't working. Yeah, no, I wasn't working for him directly. I was working so he was a really internet-based candidate that was getting a ton of attention online, but he wasn't getting anything from mainstream media. Like CNN would talk about him, MSNBC would talk about him when he started. And he made his beginning by going on Rogan, because he went on Rogan and that just blew up, because he was talking about automation, all this stuff. And I connected with a lot of it. But on the bigger side of it was I saw just how much of a space there was in demand for content about what he was doing on the campaign. But it wasn't being like expressed. It wasn't being shared on all the big news channels. So I saw that it was super rampant on the internet. Twitter was huge. Reddit was huge for it. So I started making videos where I explain every day, basically, what updates were about the campaign to his supporters. And that started growing my channel quite a lot. I think I got to like 10,000 subscribers in about like 2 to 3 months, which was insane for me. It was just making that content. There were about like 7 to 8 other people similar to me doing other things. Some people would just go and live stream an entire rally, and they would have 4,000 viewers across Twitch and YouTube at the same time, garnering like thousands of dollars in donations, which would help them keep on going, go to the next place, film another live stream, stream another events, all this stuff. There was a woman named Paget who lives in LA now, but she got to like 25K subscribers just talking about Andrew every day to his supporters. And that was only possible because everybody was so online. So during that time, I started a podcast where I would have these various influencers in this like ecosystem, right? Come on my show. I'd have supporters come on my show. And the podcast became a separate channel. I learned how to upload to Spotify. I learned how to work like the, not so much the branding side, because I didn't have the numbers to get brand deals at that point, but it was more so like just understanding like what that process is. And the dream was to eventually have my podcast show, have another podcast show, all under the network that we would own the IP of, and just increase in size. But as the Yang campaign dwindled down, and then Joe Biden got the nomination, and all the other candidates, Bernie, Klobuchar, everyone dropped out, I was like, okay, the numbers just aren't there. Like you can't sell enough spots with in terms of the overhead that I was also looking at like potentially having. It was just impossible. So I stopped doing that, and lockdown happened pretty much right away. I was going to move down to California to work on a congressional campaign, just to do media work for them. But I couldn't go down.
All this was happening, and you're from Redmond, Washington, right?
Yeah.
And are you in school at the time you're doing all this, or how old were you?
It was the transition between, so blogs were all through high school. Then I started doing the political stuff end of senior year, more the summer. Then I attended SCAD in Atlanta, which is Savannah College of Art and Design. And it was a film school. I went to study television producing. And while I was there, I was still doing Yang. But the thing was, every weekend I was flying out to Iowa, to Nevada, all these early states, to go attend and like film and get as much content as possible. And I was studying the exact same thing in school too. I was learning how to set up a show, build a show, but I was doing it in the real world. So at a certain point,
hold on.
Sorry, I keep skipping over things.
No. So how are you making that happen financially? So you're not getting brand deals. You're in Savannah, just a broke college student like we all are at some point. How are you flying to Iowa and making all that stuff happen?
Yeah, Patreon. It was Patreon, and then AdSense. That was the biggest thing. Was the supporters were so strong that even if I didn't have insane numbers in terms of like what it is nowadays and like what other people are used to, the supporters were still enough where I wasn't getting rich by any means, but like $400, that would last me a week of traveling and doing all this kind of stuff. And also there were super PACs down there. There are all these organizations down there meant to help supporters. And they knew that if I attended their events, I would be filming it. And if there was 150 people in the audience, 10,000 people would see it when I would upload the video. So then I started getting free hotels with these people because I would just go and film all these events. That's the only way I was able to survive. Wow. Barely able to do it. You got the hustle, no
question about it.
Thank you. No, it definitely felt like a hustle.
Did this get in the way of school? So you're in Savannah, a beautiful town. I love Savannah. So you're down there doing your school and you're flying all over. I mean, I'm guessing that they suffered a little bit. Was mom and dad happy with all this going on?
Yeah. So it was an art school. So a lot of the projects were very like project and creative based. It's like drawing classes, things that were more simple, and they're foundational classes. So I didn't actually have too much trouble with it. But I also realized at the same time, like what I want to study at this school, which I will get to do my 3rd and 4th year, is what I'm doing now in terms of building like that podcast show, being able to produce a show when it comes to production, distribution, and also just branding and making money from what I'm doing. So I was doing that. And then when the campaign started like growing more and more, Andrew was in like 5th or 6th place. There was debates happening. He was making all these like debates. I was like, okay, this is taking too much of my time. I talked to the administration. I was like, I want to take a quarter off. I want the option to return because I'm planning on returning. And they're like, dude, go for it. Cause this is what we want. Like, they were the best for it because they were like, this is what you're studying. You're going to take a break to go create content and videos. I was really amazed by how supportive they were of that. I got to leave. I was there. I moved to Iowa. I was living in this. So when I moved to Iowa, I was hopping from hotels with all these different like organizations that were set up to help volunteers. But then I moved into a house of supporters called the Sorority of Yang, and everybody was at least 30 years old, right? And I was at the time 18. There were mostly women that would come in, and every 30 days, a new round of all these supporters would come in, and they were set up to be like this like safe house that was a little bit more, controlled and put together. Just, they wouldn't have a ton of women supporters like feeling unsafe going around like all of Iowa. It was like a way to kind of bring everyone together and support everyone. Yeah, so I lived there. I was making content in this house. We called it a content house as a joke, but we were just grinding it. Every day we'd go out, vlog. I'd be live streaming. I'd be creating podcasts upstairs with people pulling them in. And that was the only way I was able to kind of survive while I was out there. And I just kept doing that.
How fun was that? Just being able, I don't have to worry about school. I've got this amount of time. I can do whatever I want with my day. Like, were you just stoked and wanted to like pack as much as you could into a day?
I did. And I definitely wish I did more too, right? Because you always like think back and go, oh, I wish I'd done this and this. Yeah. But yeah, and the friends that I made there, it's weird. My friends make fun of me because I only really hang out with adults. It's because of that experience. Growing up around them, I realized like so many people are still in high school, right? All the problems that exist in adult life, what it made me realize is, it's not that different from what we went through in high school, what we went through in college, the weird social relationships. But I liked it a lot. They had really amazing stories. And so, yeah, I lived with them for a while. Yeah. Sorry, what was your question one more time?
Nothing. Well, so it's easy to look at that. And a lot of people would go, okay, so he's out of the race. There's not as much excitement there. No one's paying for hotels. Views are down. It ain't working. I had this great idea of a network, but I'll never have the revenue to be able to make it happen. I'm going to close up. Yeah. But you didn't. Mm-hmm. It wasn't a failure because you really said, I'm guessing, right? You talk about it, but it seems like you took that idea and go, wait, what if we did that around influencers? What if I still had the same network, separate channels, separate podcasts and stuff?
For sure.
What? A lot more people want to talk about influencer shit than they do about podcasts, right? Was that the...
Yeah, exactly. It was. Because originally it started as a YouTube podcast, but then I quickly realized like podcasting, you don't need the same numbers you do on an 8-minute blog. Like the value...
You can make stupid money on a podcast.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm sure the audience knows, but like the CPM on a YouTube video, you'll receive like $5 to $8, right? If you're really family friendly, you can go higher. Podcasting, 25 to 35. So that's the amount of money you're being paid per 1,000 views, and it increases so much more in podcasts because it represents a stronger and more engaged audience than any other platform. People are willing to listen to you for an hour. They're not just going to make you one of the blogs that they watch in the day. That's a huge thing, and that's why so many people now are doing it. Nelk just launched a podcast. They see like the economic value in doing it, as well as the fact that you increase that engagement with your audience and you can always work with them, and it's just a better relationship to have. So yeah, it was definitely that. It was replicating the exact same thing that I wanted to do during Yang in social media. And what you said about like, how do we grow to this many subscribers on all those channels in a year? It was purely because of our plan for conversion. It's creating content on TikTok that's short form, has insane sensory overload, right? David and Logan are so good at making sure that no cut is longer than 6 seconds, because if it is, the audience is already thinking about jumping off. But if you say something so quickly and move on to the next thing, your mind is thinking about what you just said and then starts to process what you're saying now. So I want like bringing that into the TikTok style. I use that editing style to make sure everything's quick cuts. So that channel grew pretty quickly on TikTok. It was paired at the same time with the explosion of people on TikTok during the summer. And all these influencers blowing up. The Hype House was the biggest thing in the world at that point. Sway was becoming the biggest thing in the world at that point. And we just started reporting on what they were doing, and the numbers showed. Like I think we got 10,000 followers the first day on TikTok. Yeah, and we just started grinding. We were in my friend's garage. It was hot as balls, and we're just filming every day. It was film, edit, post, and grow. And over time, I brought in Chris and Burke, who like I filmed with them all the time in high school, right? So it brings back to like what we did in high school. I knew like they are funny characters and they have the ability to be charismatic on camera. And so we grew the talent on terms of who's on camera and started pumping those out. And our plan was, okay, we need a YouTube channel because you can't make money on TikTok as you can on, like what I was saying with podcasting, an hour versus 8 minutes. Same thing with 30 seconds versus 8 minutes. So we started.
Do you make any money in the creator fund? I make nothing.
Yeah,
worth doing anything with.
I know. It's so at the time when it first started, it was awesome. But now, right, with other ways that platforms are paying creators like Snapchat, you can't even compare. So it makes you definitely care less about like how that creator fund is doing. And obviously TikTok did it as a way to make sure that they could incentivize people to stay on their platform versus other competitors. Like that's what all the platforms eventually do, is they'll just outright pay people. But it's pretty minimal for sure. I talked to a creator the other day who just randomly checked his creator fund, and he goes, dude, I just got 60K in here. I totally forgot about that. And I was like,
what the fuck?
How do you forget about 60K?
It's funny. I talked to an influencer and I kind of know pretty well, big TikToker, and he was saying he was only making like $5,000 a month off the creator fund. So,
yeah.
But 60 grand, that's money.
It's crazy. I think it's great though it's the same thing that happened with Vine so many years ago, right? If you weren't able to be like on multiple platforms, the future was pretty bleak in terms of where you could go. And when the platform died, most of those creators also kind of went away with it. For sure, the YouTube's like so important to like grow, and that's where the creators that do have a YouTube, they'll focus more there. They can apply more brands there, make more off monetization. But if you're really only on TikTok and you're most dominant on TikTok, then creator fund is everything. It's the most important thing there is.
This is such good advice because younger people watch this. It's such good advice on how to start a channel and how to like get started in this world. Cause you're 100% right. Like I've got a full-time day job and like doing a video a week. This is the easiest part of doing actually doing the video, right?
Yeah.
You gotta get your thumbnails on point. You gotta make sure your audio is good. You gotta promote. If no one's watching your video, who gives a fuck? Yeah, it could be the greatest video ever, but if no one sees it, who cares? You got to make sure your integrations are good. You got to make sure your numbers are good. You keep the brands happy.
Yeah.
You've got to be on Instagram. You got to be on TikTok, Snap. You got to be promoting on all channels.
Yeah.
It's a lot. And it seems like you figured all that out.
It was definitely through just a lot of failure too. Because you're right. In the beginning, like when I was doing vlogs in high school, the way that I saw marketing for your channel and the way you convert is I used to go, Jake Paul would post a vlog. And then when I was like 16, 15 years old, I would comment and be like, I just talked about Jake doing this. I just talked about Jake doing this. And I would go to different Google accounts, like that comment, engage with it, go to another one, engage with it, go another, engage with it. So that comment would be high enough up. So when kids saw it, they would click my channel, watch my video, and I'll get an extra 1,000 views. And I'd be like, yeah, let's go.
Wow.
That was like, yeah. It worked until YouTube obviously now cracks down on it because, it was 4 or 5 years ago. Great. But that's how I started with how I convert followers.
You're into, I did some homework. I always like watch videos and shit. I watched one and you mentioned Gary V, and we were just talking about hacking too. Were you into Gary V? Was he like, are you a Gary V kind of disciple? Like, are you into his whole view on, hacking and creating content?
It's weird. I don't watch. So there was a point when I was pretty mentally exhausted in the first couple months of the sync, whereas every single day, right? Like we don't take a break. We don't have Sundays or Saturdays off. It's every single day. There's a point when I was pretty mentally exhausted, and I just started watching some of Gary V's videos. Like, okay, I understand his message. All it comes down to is just hustle, work your ass off, and those also come true. I think it's great. I don't really watch too much of his content. It was a phase for a little bit. I do find myself, when people criticize him, weirdly, I find myself needing to defend him because I attribute some of my ability to push through those harder moments to what he was saying. And I think he's spot on with a lot of things. And there's a lot of respect for what Vayner's been able to do. Like VaynerMedia is a giant. And I didn't really realize that until a couple months ago, like how dominant they are in terms of marketing for all these major brands.
I don't know much about VaynerMedia and what he's doing over there. Is it a big agency?
Yeah. So I was talking to some managers about it because they had a meeting with Gary, and they were telling me like it's a really big player. So they'll work with the biggest like Coke and all these major brands, and they'll do all the marketing through TikTok, how to create viral content. I've heard they're not as strong on TikTok, and I know that just from like how Gary's been doing on TikTok. They're definitely more Instagram, Facebook, YouTube focused, but they're a lot more progressive in the fact that they do try to push. You need to do TikTok. You need to do TikTok. But yeah.
What do you think, and there's kind of the flip side of the hustle culture too, that says, you need self-care and you need to take care of yourself and some of that, which I agree with. It's not all hustle, but that's a large part of it. And you have it, obviously. What makes you different, and what makes you and the other creators, because this world, you're a part of it now, what makes successful ones different than the person who just started a YouTube channel a month ago? Like, what do you guys have that the person who's been kind of dicking around with it for 6 months or a year doesn't have?
Yeah.
Is it work ethic? What is
I think it's a match of like momentum. If you feel the momentum of people watching your videos and you're doing something right, then you can't stop because you're so excited about it. It's hard when you boom and then plateau for such a long time. It's just like mentally exhausting. But when there's constant momentum, constant growth, you're always excited by it. And also for me personally, like I got really comfortable with failure and no one watching like any of the videos that I put out. It's much easier for me to kind of disregard that happening and like being okay with it and just pushing forward with it. But I think also, like I was thinking about this earlier today, you got to have like a real passion for what you're talking about or what you're creating, whether that's the medium of like podcasting. I've always wanted to be a podcaster since I was in the 3rd grade. Or if it's the fact, like I'm not particularly extremely passionate about knowing what Addison Rae is doing, but I love knowing that I'm doing a podcast where I get to talk about that. And it has to be either or. It has to be a passion for the thing that you're talking about and the community that you're serving, or just a love of the medium that you're creating. If you love making YouTube vlogs, I think that's Casey Neistat, right? Then that's why they're successful. And other creators too, when I see them, it's the same way.
It's funny. So I kind of have a sneak peek because I interview influencers, but you guys, it's funny, by being around and talking about influencers, you kind of became influencers. And I saw like you're going to BOA. I mean, is a Hollywood reporting on you guys next at Catch or something? Like, what is it? How does it feel to just be kind of like the nerdy type guy creating content by himself to like, hey, now you're at the cool kids table?
I thought you were saying we are still the nerdy, because that's how we definitely still feel, right? Because everyone that's on our team, we grew up.
The party. I saw you in Miami. You guys were at the parties, hanging with people and stuff. You're in the mix, for sure.
It's for sure. Like I mean, we grew up definitely envious of like what that lifestyle is and getting to experience it in some ways super, super cool. But I think we're in a unique position though, where we do podcasts where we report drama, right? So when a creator fucks up, we'll report on that. And so it's an interesting position to be in, because you're not coming in as another influencer to be friends with, right? Some people see us potentially like threats in some way, or being able to provide real value to what they're doing by reporting on what they're doing. So we do it more like in the beginning, when we first moved down to LA, we went to Saddle Ranch and we would go to all these restaurants purely to see influencers, go up and talk to them and get them to come on our podcast. So it wasn't like we weren't living the lifestyle. We were making no money individually. We were all broke, right? So we're all Venmoing each other for a Coke that we would buy at like McDonald's. But it was going there because we knew that this is how we're going to grow what we do. We started throwing parties at our house. We had one bathroom for 8 of us, right? So then we tried to fit 200 people to party in our house. But through there, we would get five guests, and they might be huge, right? Maybe someone from the Hype House last year would show up at our house, and everyone would text the chat and be like, "Yo, Lorraine's here, bro," or "This person's here. We need to talk to them." So it's interesting because we definitely still don't feel like we're that kind of influencer. And nor do I think like most people see us as that when we show up to places. It's more like, oh, those are the podcast guys. That's not like the guy from TikTok, right? Gotcha.
Now, I'm sure if I was a big influencer and have been involved in drama and you talk shit, I would hate you, and I would hate
for sure.
I saw you, right? Have you had negative encounters with influencers?
Not in the way that I expected it to be. So in the beginning, we shit on Alex Warren a lot. So Alex was, people called him the fake David Dobrik from the Hype House, and we made a couple of videos roasting him. And then he reached out and said he loved the videos, loved the way we're making fun of him. Said it was really creative and different because he's so used to, the dumb comments like calling him fake David Dobrik. He said he would do a podcast with us. Wow. We were still at our home in Redmond, so we packed my friend Nathan. He does he's the head of our design team. He got his grandfather's work van from his farm, Apple Farm in Washington. We filled all of our podcast equipment in there, drove from Seattle to LA to go interview Alex Warren because we shit on him and then he liked it and said we can interview him. Rented a tiny ass Airbnb. That same week, Indiana Massara happened to watch our video where Chris was simping over her, being like, dude, I'm so in love with her. And then she said she would be down to come on. So that happens. But to answer your question, if people hate on us, it's the people that do shit on us are people that like, so we got in beef with FaZe Rug a couple weeks ago. Yeah. And it was and we reacted to him saying that he was going to fight Aiden Ross in a boxing match, and they revealed how much they weighed, and we just made jokes about how FaZe Rob was like super light, and he really didn't like that. And that was the one time that when we saw him in person and he confronted us about it, that was the first time someone actually got very upset about what we said about them. Him and Olivia Ponton, we talked about that on our podcast, but that was it. Besides that, the people that we roast the most and talk about the most, the Alex Warrens, the Bryce Halls, we've become closest with them, ironically, after shitting on them in our content. Yeah, it's interesting. It's like we actually become closer friends with the people that we talk about the most. And actually now it becomes easier to shit on them more because we know them personally.
So that's a weird position. Like, so, okay, you're cool with Bryce now.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, Bryce is going to be involved in some shit because that's
exactly.
in the future. He's going to do something fucked up. You're going to report on it, and maybe he doesn't want it out there, so you're going to report on it. Does that ever create a weird dynamic? Like, hey, bro, what are you doing? I thought we were friends over here. You're fucking me up.
So the boys, like, excuse my language, but my friends call me a content whore. Because all I want is, I don't give a fuck. Like if I overhear something at a party and it's super big, I want to talk about it. It's my friends that are normally put me in check and like, dude, we can't report on that. No one knows that. We know that from a private event that we went to. So we don't actually like really cross the line like that. And we tend to wait till things come out on a different source or there's more evidence about it. So that hasn't been an issue yet. I'm imagining that's going to be an issue at some point because something's going to happen where they don't want it and we're actually friends with them. But I think we need to separate those two things sometimes too. Being able to be friends with them while also just continuing to do what we do and not changing. I think that's what most people say is just don't change.
Yeah.
Don't switch up.
What got you here, right? You don't want to start changing who you are. It's funny. I've been doing this for like 3 years and got to know managers behind the scenes people and stuff. And I've heard the craziest fucking stories about these influencers, right? And then I always hear too, like stories about clean cut YouTubers are the worst. And, they're the ones in the bathroom or doing coke at a party or something. Like, do you hear those like rumors and like wish you could report on them, but can't?
Every day.
Oh, really?
Like, oh my God. Because I've heard obviously without saying names, I've heard some like horrible things that some influencers have done when like, let's say they're a couple that's really famous on the internet and they've done like the guy's actually been a horrible person, but no one knows that. And they see him as the perfect boyfriend. Like, that's something, but that's something that I heard privately in like a private relation, private conversation. We can't report something like that, but it's true that exists every day. And there's so many people when we meet them in person, they're very different than they are on camera. While a lot of them still are exactly the same. Some people are really, really cool. Some people will surprise you in the fact that they're not as cool as you would hope they'd be. I guess it's kind of along the lines of like, don't meet your heroes because sometimes they can be complete assholes.
100% agreed.
Yeah.
Some are cool and some will give you your number and you can text them, but other ones like it's got to be through my management. Talk to my people. Let me know what questions you want to ask me, all that shit. So I 100% can relate.
Exactly.
So what's next for you guys? So you're involved in this world. You have 3 channels and you're focused on the podcast too. Are you getting numbers over there on the podcast versus what you do on YouTube, or are you trying to grow that too, or what?
We're always trying to grow everything. The main YouTube that has 400K is all about, it's a longer form version of the TikTok. Like the TikTok is meant to convert to that YouTube channel. But because of our access to these influencers and the fact that we talk about them on these other channels that receive a lot more views, like on TikTok, we post a video and it gets 1 million views, but we can have a podcast with the person that we talked about discussing the same thing and we can get 100,000 views. Great day. It's a sick day. Yeah. So that's our goal is the podcast for us is the views are very based on like who the guest is that we have on. And that's fine. Like if we're selling brand spots, we just sell them on the spots that we're confident that those guests are going to pull numbers, and the other guests, we want to just grow our daily audience. It's an interesting relationship. Every channel is kind of treated differently in that way.
I saw too, you talk about brands, and it's funny. I saw like some brand deals you did, like one with shorts and then another one with like a male landscape or man's grooming product.
Manscaped, yeah.
It was funny because I was thinking about my audience is I do something different than you, but I do the influencer thing. It's younger women is my audience, right? And I would assume people who are watching influencer drama are women. So is your demo women? And how do you get the, oh, they're not?
No, commentary, YouTube, drama alert, all these things that talk about daily news, they're traditionally majority male audience. And the majority, yeah. So on TikTok, we're a little bit more split down the middle of 50-50, but that goes straight out the window when we go to YouTube and podcasts. That's like 80 to 90% male, which helps us out on the brand side because it's a lot harder to have a split audience.
Wow, I would have never guessed it was that high. I would have guessed you had a female demo. No shit.
No, yeah. Because some of the more like the Sway Boys, they'll tell me like their audience is a lot more female, but they have enough guys where like it somewhat balances out, and it's harder to sell spots when you cut your audience in half towards the targeted demographic by that company or brand. So it's a lot easier to have it lopsided.
Did you did you seek that out, or just something that happened? Did you try to track like, hey, I want to hit guys 18 to 24, or did you think about that, or you just
I kind of assumed just because I was familiar with what kind of people watch the more traditional YouTubers that do create most of the news. Like if you think about like the Jake Pauls, the Rice Gums, Logan Pauls, they have majority male audiences. So if we're talking about them, I was assuming that we would reflect the same thing, and we have. So I just think that's like I think girls on the internet are just into a lot more diverse things. Well, you can ask pretty much every guy and they'll tell you that they know Bryce, they know Rice Gum, they know KSI. Well, if you ask, I think like 10 different like girls who their favorite influencers, you'll get a lot of different answers. I don't know why that is, but I think it's really interesting.
How's it been working with brands so far? What was it like in the beginning? Because you had success. I looked at that Indiana
one
video. Yeah, and it got like 40,000 or I don't want to miss, or 60 or something high right off.
Yeah, whatever it was.
So did you have brand interest right from go, or how did that work?
No. Right now we Kyle leads our sales team. We have one sales guy who sells all of our spots. And like there might be deals that come in because like maybe I talk to like a manager or agent that wants to send us stuff and take his cut. So that does exist, but it took a while for sure. And also the problem is a lot of these companies, they book out all their spots about a year in advance and they don't change because they budget that money for the rest of the year. So you have to wait till around this year for all that money to go into TikTok. And then what fucked that up a little bit was when people thought TikTok was going to get shut down. So then brands pulled their money out, but you're going to see it increase like, I think double or even triple going into 2022 because so many more companies like we need to be on TikTok. We're setting our ad spaces up now for 2022. Let's allot 30% versus 10% to TikTok. And you're going to see that reflected in the amount of ads being shown on TikTok, especially the fact that they're going to 3 minutes. You can do so many more brand promos. I think it was, yeah.
Does that help you?
Sorry.
I love 3 minutes because now I don't have to like, there was a couple good clips in here that you've said already that are over a minute. So before I would have to kind of chop it down and you leave it hanging, kind of in the middle. 3 minutes allows you to do a lot more things.
For sure. The way I saw it when I heard that they were possibly going to roll out 3 minutes was I don't think the audience the appetite of the audience hasn't changed in the fact like they don't really want to see a 3-minute video on TikTok. But if you make longer videos that are closer to a minute, like we do, we make 45-second to 50-second videos. Our idea is, okay, every social media platform, all they care about is retention. They just want you to stay on the platform longer than you would on the next platform. So I think they're going to incentivize. They're going to reward creators that create longer form content closer to that 3 minutes more than they would people creating short form 10 to 15-second content because that's just how their incentives lie. So I think it doesn't change what we do, but if anything, it helps what we do because they'll promote us more being longer form content than traditional TikTokers. That's the way I've been seeing it.
And same thing as YouTube, right? They, the long form content get more exposure than the guy making a 3-minute video. So you said, I think that was a good prediction to give some insight into ad budgets and stuff. Do you think it's going to go like 30% TikTok? What do you think the marketing budget for Instagram is? Like, what's the pecking order, do you think, for an average consumer brand?
I have a couple of my friends that I met at that house that I lived in Iowa. They work on the on a lot of marketing teams for bigger companies and more traditional companies. They're still very hooked on Instagram, right? Like you know this, like all these big companies, they're traditionally like 3 to 4 years behind in terms of where they need to spend their money. And so I think the big companies, they're still a little back from TikTok. They're still looking at Instagram. They're figuring out what to do with YouTube. But the more progressive companies like the Manscapes and the people who've been experimenting a lot with sponsoring podcasts, they're a lot more open to working with TikTok because they found success from having like first mover advantage on other platforms.
I found that too. It seems like, well, obviously startups are always more nimble than a big corporation, but yeah, it seems like they're the first to kind of go down that road. And how was the engagement, or have the brands been happy with you? Have you done a lot of TikToks ads, or are you just doing them all on YouTube?
In the beginning, we did a lot more TikTok. Now we're doing more podcast ads because we have a lot more connections with podcast studios out in LA, and they'll send us brand spots because to them, right, they want their cut of sponsors that they can work with. So that's been happening more on the brand side. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. Like TikTok brand deals exist, but they're just not, it's hard to make them natural, you know? Like, you know what I'm talking about? When you see a TikToker who posts a video and that video has a 10th of the views that they normally have, and all it is a straight up ad, it's not like putting it into a YouTube video where people don't care and they'll skip. They're just going to scroll by. Your watch time is going to go down. That video is not going to get pushed. And at the end of the day, when you go back to another brand, they're going to look at that one brand deal that did significantly worse. And that's your new anchor of where they're going to say, that's what you can guarantee if that's what you did last time. It's a harder place to build relationships with brands.
You've got so much insight and stuff, and you have friends at marketing companies and stuff. This may be boring to people, but I don't care. If you stayed along this interview, you're obviously into this. But you have so much insight that would be valuable to companies out there. Is that ever? Do people approach you and say like, "Hey, could you be our, marketing guy on retainer to kind of develop social media stuff?" Do they hit you up for that?
So yeah, they do, and I've been starting to work with. So there's a place called, I don't know if you're familiar with Launch House. They're a cool concept. It's a house. I think it was like it was either Britney Spears or someone else's like old house, like back in the day. It's a really nice place in Beverly Hills. And what it is a couple guys started it, and they have 30 founders that live in this house. And then every 30 days, a new round of 30 founders come in. And a lot of these people are from Silicon Valley, more tech focused, but trying to do something within the creator economy. They're trying to work with creators, but the disconnect lies in when a tech founder is trying to talk to an influencer about how to work together. There's the knowledge gap makes it really hard to create like a really strong relationship. So this is supposed to aid and make that a little easier. So I've been going there a lot, working with founders that I really believe in, see some real value in the company that they're building. And what happens is a lot of influencers, well, not a lot yet, I think soon. What I've been doing is I've been talking about equity and retainer deals, which will keep me as either, owning a small part of the company or working on retainer per month to work on mostly onboarding creators and creating like a platform that's more friendly to like work with creators essentially. And so that I've been doing that individually with those companies.
Very cool. And we were texting stuff about topics. You said you have a tech background too. What do you think now, and are you a part of, I know the Sway guys pretty well, and you look at Josh Richards and those guys, and they're involved in a ton of startups. He's got a fund now. A lot of the smart ones, Charlie D'Amelio's hooking up with apps and owning a piece of them too. Is that something you're a part of, or do you kind of want to go down that road too as a creator? To equity is important, and I want a piece of what I'm representing, and I got to be a part of the brand and those kind of things.
Yeah. So for me, if it's for me individually, like if I'm just lending, like I'm not investing capital, I'm just like giving my time and like working to make the platform better. In that case, it is really exciting. I like to own a small piece of a company if it's going to keep me incentivized. But if I see a different way to add value to that company and a better way to like create a relationship, I'd rather do that. If I'm going to get a retainer per month to just talk to creators for them and work with them, and that would be more beneficial to them, and they don't have the opportunity to give out equity like that, that's great too. But on the group side for us as the Sync, it works a little different where it's more production deals. So like Charlie and her dad got a board seat on Triller. I'm sure they own a small part of it. I think I heard Triller gave they put 10% aside for creators and distributed amongst like a ton of different creators. But what we do is production deals where we'll be paid normally. We're not going to take equity in the company, but we'll help run a campaign. We'll help run the social media pages of companies. and we'll work in that capacity as a group. But for me individually, it's more, I really want to be incentivized to grow a company if I really believe in what they're doing, if they're solving solutions in the space.
You know, I was just thinking too, so the group dynamic, we haven't talked about that a lot, but how does the money work? So they're your sites, I think, YouTube channel, like you just split AdSense revenue across the board. Do people have different percentages? Who was there first? They get more than the last person to the party. Like, how does you split all brand deals? Even like, how does that work?
It's definitely tricky. Like, it's the company, right? The company will make all the revenue, but then from there, without like revealing like exactly what everyone is getting, it's basically the people that are here, they're going to own a piece of this company. And then from there, as we grow this network, and like my guy, Kyle, who's our sales guy, when we own and run multiple different shows, we're going to need maybe a dozen different sales guys.
Hold on a second.
What?
I'm in sales. You have a sales guy. What does that mean? He works for your company, or is this a management company that's outside? Like,
nope.
This
internal
for you?
Yeah, sales and just selling ad spots. Wow. Like, that's all it is. Because he's doing it now for just what we're doing. But what we've done with the sync is a process that I want to replicate with another show and another show and another show. And then with that, Kyle will have people that work under him to fill those spots, work with all these shows. And so we're building a system right now that can scale as we get bigger and as we own more IP, so that the one guy that Kyle has will become a pyramid. That will become one part of the company. Luke, who produces our podcast, he distributes it, edits it, puts it on Spotify. When we have more podcasts, he will be making sure that the production is going right for all these different podcasts. So we're perfecting what we can do now as the sync. But when we build a show called Two Best Friends or whatever, we're going to do the exact same thing we did, but make it bigger and make it bigger and make it bigger, and grow each person's responsibility and the leadership skills that they need to have, so that they can command a whole team under them.
You know, that is impressive. And that's a vision that few creators have. And I talk to a lot of creators. You're almost looking at this like a CEO, where you're a basketball coach, and everybody has different skill sets, and you're putting people in the right roles to succeed and grow the company, which, by the way, you know, you guys own a piece of. And hey, if we make more money, you do well in the podcast division, you make more money. So is that how you look at the organization?
Yes. Yeah. That's what it is. Is everyone that's here with us right now, like, needs to own a piece of company to know that you're going to have so much responsibility as we grow bigger, that it always needs to be tied to the fact that we're building the value of this corporation. It needs to come down to, like, you know, what is the valuation of what we're able to do? And everyone has such a major role in making sure all the pieces fit together. So it's definitely that. It's just a responsibility of all the different departments that they control and run.
Well, it's incredible, man. I wish you all the success in the world. And this has been a super interesting conversation. I mean, I think people will get a different side of you, not just the guy talking shit about TikTokers. There's a vision and there's a plan behind it. This just didn't happen. You didn't just wing it.
No, yeah. It was definitely planned in the like in the beginning, when it was just me and one other person. We wanted to bring on like Chris, Nathan, and Luke to come on, build their own show individually in our space, and would help aid them, help them with the editing. We wanted to do what we're going to do in the next couple of years in day one, and it just didn't work out. So those people became part of the entire internal team, and now Nathan runs our entire design and just entire brand. So originally that was the plan, but we did it really early and realized, we need to build this first. We need to prove and fail over and over again to figure out how we can do it again.
You know, and I think that's a great lesson to kind of close on. And for the aspiring creators out there, you know, Kai didn't have like a direct path to success. 4 years ago, he couldn't have imagined, I'm guessing you couldn't imagine you're going to have an influencer kind of drama type channel, right? And this organization with podcast departments and production and all this other stuff. But I think the key, my takeaway from this is you failed a bunch of times. And I think the difference is you were still willing to like figure it out. Like, we missed, but we're really close with this part. I still think that was a good idea, but we got to try it this way now.
Yeah.
I think that's a great lesson. I think that's, you know, a real reason for your success.
Yeah, it sounds cliche, but it's like learning from failure is definitely like the best way to just figure out how to do something right. Because you just have to go through all the emotions of, oh my God, I just fucked up. We're done. And then coming back and go, oh, it didn't end everything. This is like what we learned from it. This is how we do something better. And yeah, I know everyone says that, but I think it's the most true thing. It's just learning from failure is how you just like don't repeat it. And accepting that it's just going to continue happening, and just capitalizing on the moments that things actually do work out and go well.
Wow, man. Anything else you're promoting? Podcasts, everybody go watch the network, the YouTube channels, listen to the show.
We're announcing this soon. But this is the first time I'm talking about it. The Roast of Bryce Hall is coming. We're renting a theater. We have everything. We have writers, comedians on stage. One creator, he's not even like the biggest creator, but he's the one that I'm most excited to see up there. Two-Turn Tony, Tana Mongu, like they're going to be hilarious. And just having them roast the shit out of Bryce and getting Bryce to be able to roast all of them and then building the show like that. I'm really excited for that. That's going to come in the next couple of months. And we're going to do a ton of marketing for that. So I'm hopefully everyone will be hyped for it.
Wow, sick, man. I want to take it for that. I want to see.
Yeah, let's do it.
Dude, that's incredible. Another revenue stream right there. You go. You got live events. That's another department of the organization. You're fucking killing it, bro.
It's the same thing we did here. It's proof of concept, and then be able to do this show again, do the roast again with Facebook or Instagram, right? We want to be able to then work with a more strategic partner and do it bigger, and then maybe we can do it at like the 4th theater or something crazy, you know?
Wow,
so
man.
That's kind of the plan.
Good luck. I know you'll succeed. Thank you so much for coming on the show, man. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, guys.
Make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. I have new interviews every Thursday, and I've got 3 pretty big ones coming up, so you don't want to miss them. So subscribe and turn on notifications. Thanks, guys.
Yep. Guys, comment down below who you think he's going to interview next. We gotta get that engagement going in the comments.
I need it. Hopefully it has a good watch time, right? Hopefully they stuck around for the whole hour.
Yeah.